Welcome to Unwind Design. My name's Kim. I'm your instructor for today. Starting off first with what we have in front of us, we have our 11 by 14 size canvas. Long ways. We're going to be doing a cute little gnome holding a bird in his hand today. Our class is about an hour and a half. I will be teaching you a little bit and then letting you kind of do your own thing. If you're watching the video, you can pause it whenever you want, or it will be fast forwarded to the next step. So starting off first, we have our large background brush. Make sure it's big enough to cover your back of your canvas. Large spaces, if your canvas is bigger, use a larger brush. If it's smaller, this should be fine. Then we have our square brush. This is between a size 5 and 8. This is going to be to fill in our hat, to fill in our beard, to add all the little details, maybe some triangles and shapes using our corners. Then we have our round tip today. It's between a size 5 and an 8, also comes to a point, a round tip brush. Then we have our liner detail brush, super fine tip for all the outlines and the details. This picture is going to be outlined with really thin lines. So just watch your pressure and how hard you push down on your brush. The closer you get in, the wider the line, the farther you get out, the thinner that line. And that applies for every single brush here. Then we have our pencil, okay? So I will be going over all the details that you heard me say about the brushes. As I'm painting, you will hear me say, try pushing very light, don't push too hard. And that is so that you can get a finer line, okay? Next, we have our towel. Make sure you have your water. I have a hair dryer. We do paint in layers. So we need to dry the back layer before we move on to the first layer forward. First things first, we're going to start off with our paint. As we're painting, I'm going to explain. This paint is a little sticky, which means it needs a little bit of water. And this painting is going to be nice and thick and very rich in color. So you might want to apply 1 or 2 layers of the dark brown on top of your background. So if you want to let it dry, you can let it dry and then go over again later. You don't need to necessarily do that right now. Okay, but we're going to get started and we're going to be using first our pencil. So if you can get started with your pencil. And we're going to start to do this really cute shape. So we're going to start off first and we're going to make sort of like an egg shape towards the bottom. It's like a half circle. Okay. And we're going to start to bring that a little bit up. See that half circle starts to go up. And we're going to start to form sort of like an egg. Okay. See how this looks like a chunky egg? Okay, from this egg shape, we're going to come in and we're going to do a little oval. And my oval is just a little bit slanted. Or you know what? Don't do that oval yet. Erase that, okay? We're not going to do that oval. We're going to come a little bit below here in the crown. We're going to do a little curve. And between that curve, we're going to do our oval. So we're going to come in, do our egg. We're going to do our line across. We're going to do our oval right at the center. And then this is going to start to dictate the shape of the hat. So we're going to start to come up. We are going to do the same as well. This side's going to be a little bit more straighter. This one's going to be a little bit straighter and then inclined. This line is just going to kind of curve up, setting the base on the left-hand side as to where it will be going to. This section is going to come up. It's going to be a little chunkier. It's going to start to incline, start to give it a cool little shape. And then from here, he's going to just kind of curl up. You can even go bigger if you want. Go lower on the side of the hat. Cool. And then we're going to have our hat and our little gnome head. You can come in and erase the center line. Correct some things you would like to correct. Maybe erase some lines. We have our little gnome shape there. So again, I did an egg shape, cut that egg shape a little bit above half to curve it, left just the tip. So I left about 3 fingers above. Then I curved this line a little bit up. So the slight curve going up and curving towards the left. This line went a little bit arounder, chubbier. Then it had a hook in and it started inclining and going into the tip. At the tip, we added a little round oval for the nose. Coming into the feet, we're going to do half circles that cut off towards the bottom. Okay. Again, half circles that cut off towards the bottom. And what we're going to do here is just bring in the line down, and we get to accentuate the side a little bit. See, now we're starting to add the beard on the side, and the beard curves into the foot. That actually ends here. So you could even make it a little bit wider on the sides. Make him look really hairy, make his beard look a lot bigger. See, and there we go. We're actually starting to do the side of our little gnome here. This line in the center will be erased. We're going to expand a little bit more on the beard on the left. I'm going to follow that outline, kind of make it a little bit larger if I want to make him fluffier. So his beard comes off to the side a little bit more. So then from here, we're going to add just a little straight line and then a curve. Straight line, and then we're going to come out and curve it in. Just so that it looks a little bit more pointier. See that? We're going to bring a line out and then curve it out and then come in. So he looks like he's got a chubby little hand. So right here, we're going to do the little bird underneath, just so we kind of know how that goes. We're going to come in kind of lower than half, okay? Or midway, halfway on the beard. And we're going to do a little sort of like an oval, but kind of almond shape too. So it's not too rounded, I guess. And then we're going to kind of go up. You see that? It's not super oval like this one. This one's more curved. This one's more sort of diamond shape in a sense, you know, so it kind of has like that little point. And this is actually going to be a seam right there. Okay. And then, and right here, we're going to have our little bird perched up above. So our bird should be really easy. This one is going to be more like a lower oval, chubby. And then on top, it's going to be just a little bit chubby as well. For the tail, it's going to be just a triangle. If you want to include it to the little butt, this line eventually is going to erase. So this line, we're actually going to bring past upwards, like it looks like it's kind of pointing up, looking at the little gnome. And then we're going to come up. Notice here is the half point, okay? We're still towards the left. We're going to come up, give it a little point, and then we're going to make his little head nice and round in the back. And that's our little bird. Super cute. Let's do a little line around the face. And right in the middle, we're going to have a little hand. So at this point, we've basically painted in our gnome. if you want to go in and add anything extra, again, I want you to use your imaginations. I don't want you guys to feel like you're confined to just doing it exactly how I want. If you want to paint the hat a different color, you can paint it a different color. It could be a purple. It could be anything that you're interested in doing. Okay, so it does not have to be necessarily my image exactly. Okay, so we are coming in now and we're going to begin to paint him out. So we're going to start off first with our color on the inside, or lighter colors, and then we're going to go in and paint a little bit of that background as we go out, just because we don't want to dirty our water first. We could start with the background if we wanted to. It's a dark brown. However, we would have to be cleaning out our water, and it would really mess it up if we were going to be working with our grays. So we're trying to get the purest colors possible, so we're going to work with that first. So we're going to pick up our square brush, and we're going to start first with our beard, working in our grays. So I'm going to be zooming in with that so that you can take a look at it and we can see it a little bit closer. Let me higher the light for you as well. There we go, a lot clearer. So starting off, we're going to be mixing in a little bit of water to our paint because it is a little dry. We need to kind of get it ready for us to spread it. And we're going to be working with some glazes here just so that it looks a variety of colors. It doesn't just look gray, one solid gray. So we're going to come in, we're going to add a little drop of black into one of the mixtures. So here you go. We have a gray towards the right. And then towards part of this gray, you can keep expanding by adding more white and more black. But to part of this gray, okay, I'm going to add water to expand the size that I'm mixing. But I'm going to bring a little drop of brown in there. So see how now I have more of a brown gray? And I'm going to add just a little drop of black to the corner of that to make a dark one now. So see, out of that same gray, I added a little bit of brown. And then towards the left of the brown and gray mixture, I added some more black just to make it slightly darker. And right there, I have already 1, 2, 3 shades of gray. But I also have pure white and black and brown to work with. Okay, our beard is going to be within that color palette, black, white, brown, and our gray mixtures that have all those colors combined in a different way. So I'm going to send those mixtures to you if you are watching this live. If you're watching a recording, you're going to have to kind of memorize or rewind. So I'm coming in with the light gray first, and I'm going to give it a light clean all around. Not trying to be super precise here, coming in, filling in the beard. Nice and light. If it happens to be a little bit watery, that's fine. That's a gouache. Okay. Usually a gouache is a very watered down type of paint that allows you to paint these layers below. And we're actually going to be using it to just create a little fine layer of a light gray here. Okay, so we're coming in with some of that water, and we're just coming in. Okay, we're coming in with that gray, filling in all that background. And let's go across, filling that out. We're coming in with a little bit of that black with brown and white. So that gray brown that we had. And we're going to start to fill in a little bit of just that dark or that watered down light brown gray color we made. It was brown and a drop of white and black, which gave you that very light brown that we're using right now. It's this one right here. Very light again. And we're just going to kind of create some lines going up. Don't fill in all of it. We're just adding kind of like a stain on it. You see that? This is giving it a layer of shadows. It's going to give it some depth. It's going to make it look like It's got varieties of colors on there. You do that by playing with different shades of the same color. So if you ever want to like add some shadows, don't go directly with the black if you're using blue. Instead, try using like a gray blue. Or if you're using purple, instead try using like maybe a lavender or a deep lavender. Play with different varieties of the color itself to create those highlights. So here I'm going to add just a little bit of white just to kind of go around and bring out the sections that maybe I made too dark. See how we're using the white here? We're just kind of playing with it. Super cute. I love it. I love these colors. So we're coming in from here. We are going to come in now and start to add in a little bit more of our shadows. So we're going to pick in that brown with gray and a little bit more of that black that was in there. We are going to go just a little bit darker, a little bit more black, and it's got a little bit more brown. I accidentally got some yellow in there. Hopefully you didn't, but I'll be fine. You can't tell. So I'm coming in with that brown and black gray color. If I want it more on the brown side, you can also do that. Okay. And I'm going to start to add some of the shadows. I'm going to keep the shadows primarily towards the top of the hat. See that? Towards the top of the hat. And then I'm going to start to just kind of, without hardly any pressure, start to scrape this in. Coming in, we're going to go along the right and continue to add some shadows. As we go along, I'm going to begin to add just a little bit of some black in there. But what I'm going to do now is retire this square brush. Since I'm starting to add more finer details, I'm going to retire this square brush for now, put it off to the side. And I'm going to begin to use now my round tip brush so that I get finer swoops and it looks a little bit more like the shade of a beard. Correct? So we're going to keep increasing the intensity. Remember, if you went too dark and you want some sections to stand out, add some white and that'll start to give you highlight and make things look like they're popping up. The shadow makes it look like they're sinking down. I'm coming in and adding in these dark shades now. As you can see, I'm decreasing the highlight. I'm increasing the intensity. And I'm starting to add, this is going to give it a little bit more shape. If you notice, as I'm adding the beard, it's starting to look like it's creating more movement within the colors, making it look like, okay, well, the beard's going more that way, and so on. So we're going to do the same on this side. Try to shape it out a little bit. Don't press very hard. This is where that pressure comes in. Try to be very light with it. You don't want to push very hard, just so you get thinner lines. Okay, if it's not happening, increase the amount of water that you're using. What's happening is that your paint is too thick. So you need to have it just a little bit more waterier so that when you come in and press lightly, you can leave those scratches behind that we're looking to leave for the beard as we're beginning to shape it more with this shadow. We're going to begin to add a little bit more shadow above the top, make a dark gray. It's just white with a little bit more black added to it, and add a lot of water to it so that it does look just a little bit transparent, so that at the end of the day, it does show through what we did beneath. We want it to come out. So the underneath will show through if you kind of make it just a little bit more transparent. So we're trying to do right there. So you can add a little bit of this shadow gray if it's really watery and you like it. Again, you can come in and add a little bit more shadows throughout your beard. Again, these will dry up very light. They shouldn't look so dark. Okay. And then next, we're going to move on to painting in our red on here. So we're going to come in and we're going to wash off this round tip. We're going to be using this round tip first. We're going to be adding just a little bit of water to our red, making it nice and smooth. I always like to mix the color off to the side so that I can always have pure red later on. So if you do want to make your red just a little darker, you could add a drop of black, just a tiny little bit. Let me show you what that would look like. It would just give it just a slight tone different. Okay, see that? Just a little bit more on the raspberry side. Richer, it really just depends on what you're interested in. So here we're going to go ahead and do the little arm. Kind of have that sticking out of the beard there. And then we're going to come in and we're going to paint in the body of this bird. Again, we are going to be outlining all this, so that's really going to help straighten out our piece. But you do still want to be careful as to how you paint this in. You want it to look nice and clean and thick. If your paint is too watery, add a little bit more paint to it instead of water. And that way it gets just a little thicker if you want to apply your paint thicker on the bird. Or if you want to make your red really bold. Okay? That way it's not as clear or as transparent as we got the beard. You see how water has a lot to do also with the way that you get colors to look. A little bit more water makes it look glazy and like water paint, a little bit thicker. And with some additives, you can even make acrylic paint look like oil paint. Oil paint is cool to paint with because you can add so many colors and it goes back and forth. And it's not like here, once it dries, it dries as a solid color. It doesn't work like that with oil paint. But with acrylic, you have the luxury of being able to use water to make it look like a certain technique with a faster drying time. You know, oil paint takes a long time to dry. You know, if you want to come in and do any details, you add your detail brush, pick up a little bit of that water, and you come in and you just add a little bit of that little point on top. You can always use your detail brush to straighten out lines if you don't like certain lines, or if you didn't like the way something came out, you can always use a detail brush to just outline that a little bit better. Get used to going back and forth with your brushes too. That's something that you have to be comfortable doing. It's going to make your painting go by so much faster. Just be a little confident. Don't think too much. You know what brushes you have to use instinctually. Don't think about it. Just kind of go for it. And then before you know it, picking up your brushes is going to become second nature. Okay. So once we're done with that, we're going to come in and paint the big kahuna. You know, we're going to come in and paint this cap over here. It's gigantic. So let me zoom out a little bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. There we go. So for this, I am going to be using my liner brush, my round tip, I'm sorry. And I'm going to outline it first, and then I'm going to come in with my larger background brush to paint in all the center because it's a lot larger. So I'm going to come in and do my cap about right there. Come back, add a little bit more water. I need this to be a little smoother. And this is where you get to straighten some lines. Maybe you wanted it to be straighter. You can use, maybe you wanted it to not be so curved. Maybe you wanted it to be wider. Maybe you wanted it to be smaller. This is the second chance you get to editing. You don't have to paint it, or you can paint over the lines that you didn't like, and it'll be as if they were never there. You know, almost like erasing it. But we're going to come up, add some of that red, watch it spread out on the waffle texture below. Okay, as you get that straight line nice and slow, remember, you're the one that moves your brush. A lot of times we get a little anxious and we're like, and we paint a little fast. Learn to control your speed and how fast you go. That really affects the kind of look that you get at the end of your canvas. Understand, we're still going to come in here and paint the background brown, okay? So we're going to have to be careful on this side as well. So then coming into the side on the left, or right, I apologize, to the right, we're going to come in and we're going to start to also outline that just a little bit. Again, if you want your red a little darker, you could always add just a little drop of black to that. And you can kind of add some curves. Again, watch how you're pressing your brush. The harder you press, the thicker the line. The hardly amount of pressure that you add on there, the least amount of pressure that you add hardly amount of pressure, you get it, the line to get a little bit thinner. So this red is actually going to be going behind my little birdie. So I'm going to add just a tad bit of black so it does look more of a shadow red behind him. And that way it doesn't take over the attention of it. You see what I mean? So I'm coming in with just a drop of black and I'm going around my little bird, painting that in more of a shadow. And then I'm coming in with the normal red and I'm mixing it in. So there's more of a seamless transition there. And you go back and forth between those colors until you reach a good middle point. There you go. And look at that shadow and that transition. I love it. Anywhere that you want to add more shadows to, you can add a little bit of that darker paint and it'll create a dip. If you want it brighter, you can come in with the brighter red and it'll create more of a brightness on it. Okay, so you're coming in and we're painting this. After I've done that, I'm going to retire this round tip and let the big brush do its job by filling it in right in the center with that red. All right, so from here, we're gonna let this blow dry. We're gonna dry it up real quick, and then we're gonna be moving on to painting the background. Real quick, we're gonna be working on the skin tone for the nose real quick before we move on, actually. So for this, it's gonna be a little bit of white, pick up a tiny drop of red, a tiny drop of yellow, and that'll give us the skin tone. If you want it a little bit tanner, you could add a little bit more brown in there. If you want it to be a little bit lighter, you can come in with a little bit more white. If it's too yellow and you want it pinker, add more red and just kind of play with that palette there. And that's going to give us the skin tone that we're looking for. So we're going to come in and I'm going to paint in the gnome's nose. You decide if you want to make it small. You decide if you want to make it a big chubby nose. Just because we painted it on there a certain size doesn't mean that that's the size you have to go. You can always go a little bit larger. So let me show you what that means. So I'm coming in and I'm going to make my nose just a little bit bigger. See that? Nice big hefty nose. And below, I'm going to add just a little bit of brown and red. Mix it a little bit more with my tan, brown and red. Maybe a little bit more on the red side. So it looks more like a shadow color. And right underneath that, just added a shadow to the bottom. See that? If you want a little bit of the highlight, you can get this light color. Just add a little bit more white to it, and then right over the top. Highlight mixed with your original color. And then we have that dimension that I like to talk about all the time. We have that depth we're looking for. For this little birdie, we're going to add a little bit of red and a tiny drop of black. Okay, we want to make it just a little bit darker. And we're going to go right below the belly and just add a little bit of a shadow on the bottom part of our bird. We could do it on the side of the arm as well. Again, it was red with a little bit of black. You can add it off to the side and it gives you that shadow effect. I added it below my bird. I'm going to add it on the bottom in the middle of the tummy because we are going to be adding a wing there. So I want to add that shadow. I'm going to add that shadow also below the bottom of my cap just so that it has more shadow on there. Looks like a better transition. You can create folds on the cap with this shadow as well to give it some wrinkles on your cap. This helps with that shadow color. So here we go. We just added a few shadows around it. You can also do it to the other side of the cap. The more water you add, the more it gives it a softer transition outwards. Cool. All right. So moving on from here, we're going to be picking up our large background brush. We're retiring our round tip, picking up our large background brush, picking up some of this water, and we're going to be picking up some brown. So you have the choice to add a little bit of red to your brown or a little bit of yellow, or maybe you want to make it look more like wood. It's completely up to you. I'm going to add a little bit of black to my brown, and I'm going to add just a tiny little drop of red. I always like it when my brown has some red in it. And it'll complement the color of what we're painting the hat. So this is the color I got out of that. This is the original brown. And then this is the brown that I made from that. So I'm coming in and I'm using the corner of my brush. Make sure that you have enough water so that it allows your color to spread appropriately. You're going to use the corner of your brush to just go very lightly around your cap. Okay, if your paint is too see-through, try making a little bit more. You need more paint. That means it's a little too thin. You added too much water. So see, there's a balance that we have to find in the middle of all this. And then this is a third chance you get to fix your hat if you don't like the way it is by adding this brown on the edge. You can go into some of the red and change it up. We're going to want to be careful around our little bird, but you do want enough paint to cover that section right there. So we're going to be a little bit careful. Go around the little tail. We're going to go around this beard also. If we want to go in long ways with our brush, there we go. And then you can begin to paint the bottom. and the rest of it in. And we're going to do the same to the opposite side. Go around the shoes, around the arm, and around the cap on the outside. You could blow dry it and then add another layer if you need to. We do need to make this nice and thick. If we want to go ahead and dry this, you can go ahead and add another layer on top. From here, we're going to be grabbing our round tip brush, picking up some water, and we're going to begin to paint in what is black. So we're using this round tip, and we're going to start off first with the little glove. So we're coming in with that nice thick black, and I'm actually going to extend the arm. The good thing about the black is that you can extend it at any point because it is the darkest color. So wherever you decide to put it, that's where the outline now moves to. So that's the benefit of having that. So I'm going to make his arm just a little bit chubbier, and then I'm going to add the little thumb on there. And I'm going to paint the whole thing in. There we go. And remember, this is nice and chunky at the end. If it ends at a round tip, you don't have to worry about making the limestone straight at the end over there. Next, we're going to come in and we're going to fill in these shoes. Picking up a little bit of that black again. And we're going to have some of this black maybe going into the beard a little bit so that it looks like the beard is on top of the shoes slightly. Okay, same thing here. We are going to be adding some snow there as well. So if we do that, it makes it look as if the feet might be a little bit bigger and the beard is on top of the feet. These little effects that you don't really notice that add all these like details. Instead of having to come back and draw gray over the top, which you can, you just cut into the gray a little bit more. So same thing over here. We're going to come in, cut into the shoe a little bit, and then we're going to continue to paint this in black. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit wider. To the left, or to the right, I'm sorry. Here we go. Cover this in. If you want to make it a little bit taller, you can. You could add another layer on there just to make sure it's nice and thick on there. Perfect. We have the little feet. So next, we're going to have a little hand. It's just a straight pocket that goes below our little bird. See, and that is holding our little bird right there. So then from here, we're going to start to add all the little details on the top here. I'm going to be using my liner brush for this. Coming in, grabbing my liner brush, my super small one, and I'm going to be doing in the face real quick. The face comes to a point, and then we have a round outline. Okay, and then we have a little triangle point here. This has a little beak pointing upwards. And we actually fill in the whole face with this black. You can also come in and do just the little outline for the hand. You can do the outline below the stomach, connecting it to the hand, the outline and the little tail. You can do the outline around the actual bird. Okay, same thing in the tail. Make it look as if it has some feathers on there. Okay, so with this black, we're going to start to outline the hat a little bit. So I'm going to give you the pattern that we're going to be using. We're going to be using an outline and putting an outline completely across. First, starting right above the nose. And we're going to curve with the hat. See that? You're going to end right where the hat ends. There we go. Right above that, we're going to skip a little bit, do another line. And adding some triangles. So there we go. Right above that, we're going to skip a little bit. You can add a little bit of the bent section of the cap there. We're going to skip a little bit and we're going to add another line. Skip again a little bit more. And then we add our triangles. And right above that, we have another line. And then we continue that pattern all the way towards the top. Up here, you start to twist it a little bit differently. The final steps we have left to do with this black is to outline the whole cap and fill in all the triangles. And then we're going to continue to outline the rest of the gnome. So that's what I'm going to be working on next. I'm going to give you guys about 5 minutes to fill in the triangles and just outline the whole gnome, kind of like I'm doing it. The beard is going to be outlined with just some lines scratched into the beard to give it some movement. Again, I will be describing that as I go along that. from here, we're going to come in and just work on this cute little eye of our birdie. That's going to be a little bit of white into our black. It's going to give us a light gray. And we're going to make an oval with that light gray. You see that? We're going to make just a slight oval, inclining, looking up. Cool. And on that oval, you're just going to come in with another bit of your black. Add that right in the middle. Okay. And in the middle of that, you're going to come in with just a little drop of white. And that's the little eye. You can always go back with some black if you want to make that oval a certain shape. If you want to make it just a little smaller, you can. Okay. And we're also going to add just a little bit of white right above our beak here to make it stand out. In fact, we're going to add a little bit of white above our bird at all. So we're going to add some a little bit right here on the side, on the belly. Right above the back, we're going to come in, and with this white, we're going to begin to just pile a little bit of snow on the birdie's back and even on top of the head a little bit. Look at that. It looks like he has just a little bit of snow. Okay. Right here, we're going to begin to do the seams. We're going to skip some lines, make some long ones, some short ones, long ways. And then we're going to make some lines from the top to bottom, a little bit more broken all along this section. And that's going to make it look like the top of our glove, like the seams where it's all sewn together. We're also going to add some snow with the white above the shoe a little bit. So come back with that white, nice and thick, and begin to dab it over the top. Adding some snow. You can add a little line over the shoe so we know that that's the shoe on there. Same thing towards the left, a little line. We're also going to add a little bit of snow above this shoe. Just tap it above the line. Let's do some dabs. Look at that. And we're starting to get some snow crumbled. Let's add a little bit of a line above the arm. Maybe add a line to show that there's a glove there. A little bit of snow covered there. And as we go up, we can add a little bit of the snow above the nose. And you can go ahead and add some snow along part of the beanie as well. We can come in, add some white lines to start to distinguish these triangles from the rest of the canvas. That's going to kind of give it a highlight. Let me zoom out so you can start to see that. So I'm starting to add just a slight bit of a highlight above each of these little lines. I'm also going to add some along this center. We're just adding some highlights around the whole thing. Okay, again, you can make some lines. If you want to add any snow at any point, you can. See, we continue to add snow as we go along. And the final thing that we have left to do with our white is to come in and do some snow at the bottom. You can do this on both sides or just on one side. I'm going to add a little bit on both. And then you can come in with this brush and do some snowdrops around. And then we're going to go around and do a bunch of snowflakes. So let me show you how to do the snowflake, just so you have an idea. Right here towards the top, I'm going to be doing one right here in the middle. So then we're going to come in. We're going to do a cross. Then we're going to do a little X on the inside. And to each of these, we're going to make it look like an arrow, right? Arrow, arrow, like it's pointing downwards. And we're going to pull those lines on every single one of these. I'm going to do like 3 or 4. You can do more depending on how long this is on each line. Okay, and we're going to do that to every single line as we go around. And there you go. We have our simple snowflake. Not really a big deal. Super easy to do. There we go. If you also want to add tiny little sparkly stars, you can do that. Super simple. Again, the same technique, the X and the cross. Do a bunch of little ones, scatter them around, and you'll end up getting a really nice pic at the end of it all. Okay, so we're going to go around and keep playing with this, and then we'll be moving on. All right, guys, so from here, it seems that we are done. All we have to do is come in, add a little bit of water, pick up a little bit of that white, and go in and put your signature right at the bottom. After this, you're done. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to check out our videos on our website at www.unwindanddesign.org.